Hey, good morning, everyone. Forgive us as we had a little technical difficulty here getting started. Thank you so much for your patience. I want to welcome everyone. Our participants usually find it's very helpful to have a paper and pen or pencil handy with them to take notes on the information that we're going to be presenting. I want to invite you to grab a paper, pencil, or pen so that you can write down the information we'll be sharing, as well as any questions that you might have. We're going to begin in about 2 minutes. I'll be going through a few housekeeping items, as well as give you that opportunity to show you where you'll be able to write down the questions that you might have. Again, we'll be answering those questions at the end of our presentation. So thank you very much, and we'll begin our presentation in about 2 minutes. So the agenda for today will be to talk about Earlens technology and how it's different from traditional hearing aids. Then we'll talk about the improvement in hearing that patients receive from Earlens. We will wrap up with questions. For those of you just joining, let me recap some of the housekeeping items. You may want to have a paper and pencil handy for taking notes, and we're going to then give you an opportunity to submit questions, which we will be answering at the end of today's seminar. So, okay, let's get started. If you would like to ask a question during the presentation, please type that question into our question box located here on your screen below our presentation. It is circled here in red, and you may enter those questions at any time during the presentation or at the end of the presentation. Also, I'd like to mention that we do have closed captioning for the webinar. And I know there's a bit of a delay as I speak, so if it would be helpful, you can hover over the media player window at the left of your screen, click on the blue CC circle at the bottom right of the media player window, as seen here, circled in red. Give you a moment to see where that is, and you may find that very helpful for today's presentation. Many of you have been patients at Silicon Valley Hearing, but there are several that are new to this practice attending today's webinar. So we wanted to tell you a little bit about Silicon Hearing and what they do. The reason that Earlens is part of this practice is that Dr. Marnie Novick really is committed to bringing the very best to her patients, as many of you know. She's always seeking a solution that might improve the lives of her patients, either with better sound quality or sound speech understanding. We are so excited to offer this webinar today to describe to you the most revolutionary technology that uses a lens to vibrate the eardrum directly. And that is what we're going to be describing to you today. So let me take a moment now to introduce to you someone that you probably know very well, Dr. Marnie Novick. My name is Linda Daly, and I will be supporting this presentation as a representative from Earlens. But if you haven't looked around the office at Marnie's many credentials, among them they include receiving her master's degree from the University of Iowa and a doctorate of audiology from Salus University. In her 23 years of practice, she continues to support the field of audiology by mentoring students in audiology as her way of giving back to the profession, as well as many other things. I'm very happy and delighted to present to you Dr. Marnie Novick.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you for everyone attending today's webinar. So like we said, we're going to have questions at the end, and many of you know a great deal about my practice and the services that we offer. And in terms of hearing aid technology, in my 23 years of practice, I have been very fortunate to have been exposed to some of the leading cutting edge technology that has been offered on the market. And I believe that Earlens is going to be a wonderful addition to our practice and as an option for many patients as a type of technology to use to improve their speech understanding and noise, and also to improve their appreciation of music listening. So since you're attending a webinar about new hearing loss treatment, you probably are interested in finding the best solution to help you understand speech more clearly and enjoy other hearing situations like music and nature. And you're not alone, because of the 210 million adults today in the United States, 44 million adults have hearing loss as well. Next slide. There are many situations where it can be frustrating not to be able to hear clearly or hear all of the fidelity of sounds that you can get. For some of you, it may be difficult to understand what other people are saying, especially in noisy situations like a crowd or at a restaurant or a small gathering. For other people, you may find that you're not hearing the full, rich sounds when you're out in nature or listening to music. So now we'd like you to think about one situation in which you can think of that you would like to hear better in. Maybe think about the past week and a specific situation where you felt like you couldn't hear well as you wish you could, and how did that make you feel? If you have that paper and pen near you, go ahead and write down the situation in 1 or 2 words. Now let's think about how you would feel in a situation if you could hear well. For example, I know for my dad, when he had hearing loss, and he also had tinnitus, which was ringing in the ears because he used to hunt with his friends, one of the most frustrating things was being able to understand his best buddies whenever they went out to the local steakhouse and had a drink at the bar. So a lot of background noise, and it was very frustrating for him, and it made him not want to go out into those situations as much as he could have. So as we go through the rest of the presentation, I want you to think about this situation that you thought of, that you jotted down on pen and paper, and we can talk more about how Earlens might be able to help you. Wow, so let me tell you, I mean, I've been in this field for 23 years, and Linda a little bit longer than I have, and I will say there has been a tremendous growth in technology. As a user of hearing aids myself since I was 16 months old, I remember back in the day when the hearing aids were just a simple analog device. There was no frills and thrills with the device. It was just an analog sound quality device. And then back in the 80s, they came out with hearing aids that employed a type of speech algorithm known as wide dynamic range compression. And what that simply means is to amplify the soft sounds of speech, keep moderate average sounds of speech comfortable, and apply some compression on some of the loud sounds that we hear in our everyday lives. And then also in the 80s is when we came out with hearing aids that were actually programmable on a computer. because before that, we used to have to open a little open up a little door on the top of a hearing aid and use a screwdriver to turn little gadgets called a potentiometer. So we've come a long way. And then in the 90s, the mid 90s, when the first digital hearing aids came out on the market back in 1994. And then in the 2000s, we came out with the receiver in the ear devices, as most people know that we have today. And then in 2013, we came out with wireless, where hearing aids had more wireless connectivity to iPhones in the beginning, being able to make changes on your phone with an app. So you can see here from the 50s all the way to now how much growth we've had. But despite all of these improvements in technology, there are still some patients who cannot simply delight with conventional hearing aids. And that's why Earlens. This is the world's first contact hearing solution, was developed here in Menlo Park, California, creating a whole new category of hearing aid technology today. Patients are often seeking better performance. You're going to hear this with many of your friends, that they still feel like they can't hear in a restaurant. My hearing aids sound very tinny. Why am I still struggling when there's background noise? And music just doesn't seem to have the quality and fidelity as it did when I had normal hearing. So for the 70% of current hearing aid users out there, sound quality is the top factor in their next hearing aid purchase.
So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to all of you about Earlens. And I'm so proud to be partnering with Dr. Novick and Silicon Valley Hearing, because they are so committed to improving patient lives with new technology. Earlens was specifically founded with one goal, and that was to improve the sound quality that hearing aids can deliver. And that's exactly what we have done. Earlens uses this tiny lens placed directly on the eardrum to vibrate it. Because of the unique way it works, Earlens amplifies sound across a broader bandwidth. This does 2.5 times better than most hearing aids because of this. And you're going to learn about it in the slides ahead. This means that you can experience better speech understanding without feedback. And if you have an iPhone, you can also listen to your music and a phone call directly, because Earlens can stream music using Bluetooth. And so we're going to understand a little bit how Earlens works now.
So what does a lens mean for your hearing? So we are going to be exploring now hearing loss and an audiogram to put all of this in context for you. Whoops.
Ooh. Sorry, let me go back. Aha! My apologies for the technical difficulties.
Thank you. So this is an audiogram that many of you may be familiar with because we have done your hearing test in the office, but I kind of just want to review the graph before we go into the slide a little bit further. So across the top of the graph is frequency from 125 hertz to 8,000 hertz. So going from the left to the right, it represents the low pitches through the mid pitches to the high pitches. Down the side of the graph is the volume or decibel level. So when you start at the very top, those are the softest sounds, and as you move down to the bottom of the graph, those are the loudest sounds that you can hear. All right? And so when we put you in the sound booth and we ask you to raise your hand to the softest sound that you can hear, we are plotting the softest sounds that you can hear, known as your thresholds, across each pitch on the audiogram. So if you've been tested for hearing loss, you have received this picture, and the audiologist, like myself, has reviewed the results with you. Or maybe you were told that you have a mild or moderate hearing loss at the higher frequencies, which you would, everyone's audiogram is different. Everybody's audiogram configuration and degree of hearing loss is different. An audiogram, like I said, shows how loud sounds are in order for them to be heard by you. So, for example, if your pitch at 500 hertz measures at 30 decibels, what that means is the sound has to be a minimum of 30 decibels for you to just be aware of it. So any sound below 30 decibels, your brain cannot hear it. And that's the same for at 2000 hertz, which is a key speech frequency for us in terms of clarity and understanding of speech. If your softest threshold is at 50 decibels, that means that any sound below 50 decibels, like at 40 or 30 or 20, your brain will not be able to hear those sounds. And that is why you have difficulty with understanding speech. This person's audiogram shows that the sounds at the high frequencies would have to be extremely loud, over 70 decibels at 8,000 hertz, in order to hear them. And that is really common. This type of pattern and slope is a typical age-related hearing loss. Your audiologist also might have told you it would be harder for you to hear these higher frequency sounds. So now that you understand what an audiogram is telling you, let's focus on the area of the audiogram that corresponds to the sounds that we want to and need to hear every day. And that's the range between 0 and 60 decibels. On this audiogram, we have highlighted the volume range of everyday speech and sounds. So imagine someone whispering. That would be about 30 decibel hearing level across the entire audiogram. Whereas someone talking loudly and comfortably for you, that is about 65 dB across the frequency bandwidth here. These are the types of sounds that surround you in your everyday life every day. So most people with this kind of hearing loss are missing about more than 50% of the possible sounds. If this was your audiogram, you wouldn't be able to hear those sounds in the dark blue shaded area. But you would be able to hear sounds in the light blue area. So for example, if we look at the higher frequency sounds above 1000 hertz on the audiogram here, so that's 1000 through 8000 hertz, those sounds would actually need to be pretty loud, around 60 to 65 decibels, for you to be able to hear them. Remember, the brain cannot process what it doesn't hear. So if you're missing all of that information, that means your brain is not processing that information. 60 to 65 dB of sound is about the same volume as someone talking loudly. Does this sound familiar to any of you? Do you ever have any trouble understanding people unless they're speaking up loudly for you? Well, let me tell you, that's pretty common, especially with this hearing loss, or even worse. And the reason is there are many sounds that occur in the higher frequencies, whereas hearing losses tend to be more significant. Do you know which sounds might be at those higher frequencies? Well, you might be thinking of the birds chirping or the higher music notes or little kids' voices, and you are correct. Those sounds do occur at those higher frequencies. But it's also interesting to note, when I am speaking to you right now, different letters and different sounds are coming out at different frequencies too. This chart shows the letters that are produced in the higher frequencies, the middle frequencies, and lower frequencies. You can see that the sounds like occur in the higher frequencies, and these are typically the hardest sounds to hear, and these are your clarity sounds. If you go lower down into 2000 hertz range, you're going to hear p and h and sh and ch. Those are also clarity sounds, and they have a little bit more stronger component to them, so they're more recognizable, but still not being heard by this individual with this hearing loss because it's in the dark shaded blue area. Let's go further down into the lower frequencies where you're going to hear sounds like b and z, or and and even your vowels like a and e. Those sounds actually don't contribute to clarity, but they contribute to the volume and the loudness of speech. And the lowest frequency sound, E, is actually the lowest vowel of them all. Trivia. For example, if someone was saying a sentence to you, you might hear parts of that sentence, but end up missing a lot of the sounds and letters. And you would have to guess if you were saying 63 and sunny or 53 and funny. I would ask you to consider, have you ever been in a situation where you didn't quite understand what your friend or your spouse or partner was saying to you? Or you kind of just nodded your head yes and faked it, but you really didn't get any of what they heard. So to recap, some sounds occur at the higher frequencies that make it harder to hear what people are saying clearly. Let's watch a video to show you exactly which sounds occur at different frequencies.
It may be a new concept to you that different speech sounds have different frequencies, which makes some sounds harder to hear than others. But you can actually use a tool called a spectrogram to show how different sounds occur at different frequencies. First, let's look at words that contain more low frequencies and may be easier to hear. Words with lots of vowels like bunny, now, and dollar. Now let's look at some words with high frequency sounds that people with hearing impairment may struggle to understand. Words like cat and cap, first and thirst, or wisp and wish.
That was a pretty cool video. I love to see the spectrogram stuff of frequencies of speech. It's pretty awesome. So anyway, here's a really big topic that's very near and dear to my heart because, as many of you know, I not only work with individuals that have hearing loss, I also work with individuals who have auditory processing disorders and they have normal hearing sensitivity. The processing occurs in the brain. So the ears are simply the conduit for the sound energy to travel through and to encode the message within the inner ear organ, the cochlea, and send it up like telephone wires up to the brain. But at the end of the day, it is your brain that is the computer processor and processes all of the information that you received to make sense of your day and to make sense of your world. Hearing all of the sounds is important for speech understanding and brain health. So what does your brain do if you can't hear these sounds? The brain has to work harder, meaning it probably directs you to look at someone's face and uses the visual system of your brain to grab more information. And all of us have discovered this most importantly over the last 3 years when the COVID-19 pandemic hit and everybody had to wear masks. The cognitive overload in the area of the brain, which is in the frontal lobe, also is the area that processes short-term memory. And when the brain is overloaded and not being able to, because it can't hear all the sounds of speech and has to rely heavier on the visual system and the frontal system to help make sense of what's being said, it puts a stress and a load on the brain. And it can cause problems with recall of speech information and recall of language. All right. And so there's some research that's emerging now that's showing that this brain strain or cognitive load from not hearing well can actually be linked to dementia. So having hearing aids that give you the full range of sounds is not just about improving your ability to hear people, but it's also about keeping your brain healthy and active from an auditory processing standpoint. So the full range of sounds means is the only way that you're going to be able to consistently understand what people are saying to you when they're talking to you in normal voice level. Now let's discuss how Earlens gives you the fullest range of sounds in the marketplace today compared to any hearing aid. Remember before when we talked about traditional hearing aids that they worked by amplifying sound and sending it through the air using a little speaker? Well, because traditional hearing aids rely on a small speaker to make sounds louder, they can only amplify the sounds enough for you to hear them across a small range of frequencies. And so, wearing traditional hearing aids will give you some improvement in your hearing and speech understanding. The small area in green here on this audiogram shows exactly how much information your brain is really receiving from traditional hearing aids. However, it also shows that you are still missing some of the key sounds of speech that you need to hear to fully understand what someone is saying to you. This is the reason why people continue to be frustrated with their traditional hearing aids, and this is why Earlens was invented. And in order to get the best hearing, studies show that you must directly vibrate the eardrum with a lens. And Earlens is the only company in the market that does just that. As you can see in the graph, by vibrating the eardrum directly with a lens, Earlens can amplify sounds across a much broader range of frequencies, which lets you hear all the sounds that you were missing before. And how do we do this? Once you get your Earlens, your custom ear tip will send a high-fidelity audio data directly to the lens. The lens then vibrates your eardrum harder than a traditional hearing aid, which activates your natural hearing process. By sending the information directly to the eardrum without a speaker, you will get a more complete sound than any other hearing aid device on the market. Earlens gives you 2.5 times the bandwidth of conventional hearing aids, which is pretty significant. So the conventional hearing aid, so as you can see on this graph here, speech ranges from 125 hertz to 8,000 hertz. Normal hearing has that full bandwidth and even more. A conventional hearing aid only is accessing about 500 to about 5,000 hertz or so, but the Earlens allows your brain to get more access to sound, which will then make sound more natural for you.
So one of the advantages you will find with Earlens is that every claim we make about the effectiveness and superiority of the technology is based on and backed by science. And I know that's very important for Dr. Novick, if she is even considering providing it to you as patients. So a peer-reviewed study conducted by the National Center for Audiology proved two things: that Earlens allows you to better understand sentences in situations with louder background noise. And we know that that is a constant concern for patients. Also, that you will more accurately recognize consonant sounds that are critical for distinguishing words. And that's why Time magazine named Earlens one of the best inventions of 2020 because of the revolutionary breakthrough we made in the hearing marketplace. In order to really hear the difference, let's listen to this comparison video showing how Earlens sounds versus traditional hearing aids. I hope you can hear the difference through your own system at home right now.
Earlens uses revolutionary technology to directly vibrate the eardrum, giving you dramatically better hearing than traditional hearing aids. Just listen to these situations and hear the difference.
Now, we know for every patient, different sounds are important for different people. And so nothing is more compelling to us than real patient testimonials. And so we have several stories to share of people just like you who have hearing loss and are looking for a great solution. Let's start by watching a video about several Earlens patients and what their experiences were like.
I started doing something that I found was very isolating, and that was to stop asking. I just tried to guess what someone was saying, and then you come up with those kind of answers that could answer anything, like, oh yeah, or You have no idea what they said.
Asking people to repeat things when you're looking right at them is pretty embarrassing. And it just got to the point where I knew I had to do something.
day that I found out about Earlens. It just changed everything for me. It really was the answer that I was seeking.
It's a different system because you have these ear lenses in your ears. There's an actual device that is placed on your eardrum, and that device is I'll just call it a little motor, and it actually vibrates your eardrum.
Earlens is that technology improvement that I've been looking for.
After getting my brand new Earlens, and I immediately turned the radio on to my favorite music, and I just sat there, and tears, I mean literally tears just came down. I told many people, I said, I've got my hearing back.
I was walking from the kitchen through the living room, and I stopped because I heard an unusual noise. I couldn't figure out what it was. It was my feet compressing the carpet. This is something you can't express to someone.
When my grandkids were talking softly, and I said, now, why would you say that? And they all kind of went, well, Pops can hear now. It's a whole different world for me.
Now I know that when I walk into any situation, I'll be able to hear what's going on. And prior to Earlens, I could walk into any situation and wonder whether I was going to hear anything or not.
They have gone from obscurity and reclusion and isolation to hearing all these sounds again. I've described it to many people. On December 29th, I had my second birthday.
From the first moment I got them, I was hooked to Earlens. There was no way I was going to go try something else. This is the way to go. They're worth every penny.
I'm hearing things now that I haven't heard in 10 years. It's been fantastic.
I don't recommend things to people unless I really believe in it. And I don't think there's anything I've recommended more frequently than ear lenses to people that I know. There is no reason to postpone this decision, and there is no reason to not make the right choice, and the right choice is Earlens.
So I'm going to share with you just a few other individual patients, and I'm going to use that audiogram, much like Dr. Novick discussed with you earlier. On the right side of our screen here, you see patient John. Patient John is a veterinarian. His audiogram may resemble something like yours might look like. You'll notice the right ear is the circles in red, and the left ear is those X's. Again, you've probably gotten pretty good at looking at audiograms. And on the left are his responses with the ear lens, okay? And you can see they are more near to normal. And this is John. He was considering retirement prior to getting fitted with his ear lens. He tried conventional hearing aids and just really struggled with clarity and fidelity. And here he is now pictured with his granddaughters out in a stream, and he has described his improvement as dramatic for both understanding speech and enjoying sound overall. And he is still a veterinarian, which is a wonderful comment on how much a difference they made for him over traditional hearing aids. Our next patient, this is a very similar audiogram, as you can see. And again, similar improvement with Earlens on the right-hand side. So this patient is pictured also here, a much younger patient, as you can see, who was struggling so much with hearing aids that he was already ready to quit working and really to sort of resign himself to a non-social life. And it made such a significant improvement that he wanted to be included on whatever testimonials we could include him in. And you can see him very happy with his child here. Lastly, we don't have a picture of this patient, but we do have another audiogram, again, with very good results with Earlens. For this patient, he wanted just a whole list of all the reasons that Earlens made such a difference for his wife, his children, his godchildren, conversations in noise, such as a restaurant, performance with his phone, and how well he did streaming. He wanted you to know that he wants to tell anyone worth considering Earlens that he would tell them they are absolutely perfect for him, and that he wished he'd walked away from hearing aids long ago, that Earlens are so much clearer and more distinct for him. So that's a pretty strong recommendation. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Novick now to tell you a little bit. If Earlens is sounding interesting to you at this point, how would you move forward with Earlens?
Thank you, Linda, for sharing those testimonials. But I just have to share a testimonial of our own clinic. We did just fit our first patient 2 weeks ago with the Earlens device, and I checked in with her about 4 days after her fitting just to make sure that everything was okay, and she was just amazed at how well she can understand speech, especially from the television. She says so far she has made the right decision for her. She's able to even understand her husband better. She commented that the Earlens gives her much clearer and more robust sound definition than her current hearing aids that she had. And so she has just been over the moon with this device. And I couldn't be even more happier because, I think that's very important when trying out a product is you want to make sure it works for your patients. You want to make sure it's the right fit for my own clinic. And I have followed Earlens since the day they started from way back when and watched them, how they changed the technology, worked with the technology to the current technology version that they have right now. So what is your path to better hearing with Earlens going forward? So on Wednesday and Thursday this week, we have dedicated time slots for you to come in for a complimentary sound demo. And at your complimentary sound demo, we're going to do a very quick hearing screening just to check the points on the audiogram. We are not doing a comprehensive hearing test at that point. But the reason for doing that quick screening is we want to make sure that you have the best sound demo possible. And then if you choose to feel that you'd like to move forward with Earlens, we will then schedule you back for the full comprehensive audiogram because we have to further assess your speech understanding in quiet and noise and see where you're at that point. So the process of obtaining an Earlens system is only a little different than purchasing traditional hearing aids. If you feel that the Earlens is going to be the best fit for you, then we will then refer you to an ENT physician that we have partnered with and have a relationship with, that you will go and have your ears looked at to make sure that you have the proper canal anatomy and size and that the eardrum is easily accessible. And then the ENT will take an impression of your ears. And the Earlens system takes about 2 weeks for them to custom build the lens for your ears. The Earlens will custom design and manufacture your system in Menlo Park, California, and then you will return in about 2 weeks for your big day of fitting the system. Your ENT physician will place the lenses on your eardrum, and I will be adjusting the settings of the Earlenses via my computer to optimize the sound for your hearing. After your fitting appointment, you will have the support of the Earlens concierge team and your audiologist and ENT physician team. You will also be having the trial period for Earlens is 60 days. So you have a full 60 days to really have the experience with Earlens and make the determination if you're going to keep them after that. So now here's the big part that patients are always wanting to know about hearing aids in general is the Earlens solution. The price for the pair is $12,000 for the pair, and let's break that down for you. Earlens also has financing available for you if that's something that you would like to discuss. So it's $1,000 for the impression fee and the fitting with the ENT physician. The devices themselves, the lens and the receiver behind the ear component, is $8,000 for the pair. And then you'll be prepaying for 3 years of warranty and follow-up with both myself and the ENT physician, which is $3,000 over a 3-year period of time. So basically, you're going to be coming back more often than you would than the traditional hearing aids that you're accustomed to. Instead of seeing me twice a year, you're actually going to be seeing me about 5 times a year, and you will be seeing the physician 5 times a year, because we want to make sure that your ear canals are healthy, there's not a lot of wax debris that gets formed that needs to be cleaned out. So this is all what goes into the Earlens solution. We know that this is a big investment, but we also know from our patients, my first patient, that Earlens is truly life-changing. And we are so confident in the Earlens revolutionary technology that we are offering the 60-day trial period to ensure that Earlens is the right fit for you. We do this so you can experience and hear firsthand the difference Earlens will make in your life. The great news is that this price does include all of your service visits and the repair warranty for 3 years. So I know that many of you have some questions, and please feel free to type your questions in the Q&A that Linda had pointed out earlier in this webinar. But let me just answer the top 5 questions right off the bat, because it may already answer what you have written down. The first question is, can I feel the Earlens when I'm wearing it? Most patients do not feel the Earlens. In fact, when they get it placed, they feel the ENT placing the lens down their ear canal and onto their eardrum. But once it's all settled in place, they do not feel the actual lens on their eardrums. Do I need to change batteries? No. The cool thing is that the Earlens system is rechargeable. So many of you are probably accustomed to the rechargeable devices, and the same thing for Earlens. It's going to come with a charger, and so the receiver in the ear portion, the receiver behind the ear portion, will be rechargeable. Can it connect to my phone or other device? So Earlens currently can only connect and stream to iPhone. Earlens is not currently having any connectivity to Android at this point. That is something that may come down in the foreseeable future. And as most of you know, when we first had digital wireless hearing aids back in 2013, there were only 2 companies that released that product, and at that time, it was also only made for iPhone. The connectivity to Android has just recently become a thing in the past 2 years. So I think it will be down the future that Earlens will be able to connect to an Android phone. Can it get wet? So the Earlens, you can shower with the Earlens device. That's not a problem. We don't want you to have any direct stream of water in your ears. But if you are an avid swimmer, we do recommend that you purchase swim plugs from our office that will help you protect your Earlens when you're swimming. And how often do I need to get the lens checked? You will be getting the lens checked by both myself and the ENT for about 4 to 5 times per year, at least once a quarter. Linda, do we have any additional questions?
Yeah, so I have a question from someone. They're asking, what will happen when I come in for my visit this Wednesday or Thursday?
So just to recap, like I said earlier, is the visit is going to be a sound demo. So what we're going to be doing is when you come in, I'm going to quickly screen your hearing thresholds at 250 hertz to 8,000 hertz, and then we're going to do a sound comparison demo with the Earlens versus your hearing aid using the Earlens comparator. Your visit will last about 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay, and then I have another one here is, can I wear an Earlens if I'm a swimmer?
You can most certainly wear an ear lens if you're a swimmer. We would recommend purchasing customized swim plugs, which we can take impressions of your ears, and that way you can use swim plugs to swim, and that will protect the ear lenses in your ears.
Okay, great. And I have another question here. Does this totally replace your current hearing aids?
So if you end up liking Earlens and enjoying this, yes, it does replace your hearing aids. However, if you have a problem like one of the receiver behind the ear portions of the Earlens doesn't charge, you can wear your traditional hearing aid over on your ears because it won't come in contact with the lens, okay, until you can get into my office for some troubleshooting.
That's a very good answer. And I might add that there is only one time where you ever might need to have your lens removed, and that would be if you ever needed to have an MRI. It would never harm you to have the lenses in your ear, but it would damage the lenses themselves. So your ear, nose, and throat physician would simply remove the lenses, put them in a contact lens case. You'd go and have your MRI, and then they would simply be placed back on your eardrums afterwards. So during that time, you might want to wear your traditional hearing aids to and from the doctor's appointment for your MRI.
And also, Linda, here's another thing that we should bring up. What about for those who are, and other than avid scuba swimmers, but what about scuba diving?
Yes, so scuba diving is not indicated if you're an avid scuba diver and you're doing that often. They are not it's not recommended activity because of the pressure underneath.
Yep.
I do have another question. Do you have a device outside the ear that goes along with Earlens?
Yes, there is a device outside the ear, and what we're going to do is let's go back a slide. So there's two components here. This is the lens component right here that's placed on your eardrum. This is the device, which is the hearing aid is sitting behind the ear with a custom slim soft touch mold. The difference is this system here, this is not a speaker like your traditional hearing aid. So this is not an acoustic hearing aid. This is more of a radio frequency type of instrument. So if you were to hold this system in your hand, this and this, you're not going to make it squeal like your traditional hearing aids. And this system here sends the data to the actual receiver coil that is sitting here on the chassis that's leaning up against your eardrum. So there are two components. And this type of hearing aid does not have the traditional feedback squeal that traditional acoustic hearing aids have.
For those of you that will be coming in for the sound demonstration on Wednesday or Thursday, you'll have an opportunity to see this whole system and take a look at it and touch it and feel it. I think one of the unique aspects of it is that there are several custom parts to it, which include that ear tip that goes in your ear canal, as well as the lens, which is custom. And let me see, I may have gotten another question in here. I'll have to go back here. No, I guess that was it. Any other additional information that you feel we should add in here, Dr. Novick?
No, just if you're interested in scheduling for the sound demonstration on Wednesday or Thursday, please give us a call, and Julia will schedule you for the complimentary sound demonstration. We have time slots available for you, so just give us a call at 408-540-7128. And then in a few days, we will also have this webinar on our website. I can send an email out to all the attendees if you wanted to rewatch the webinar. And thank you for attending. We're very
Thanks for
excited to
joining.
add this.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you on either Wednesday or Thursday. Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.